Welcome back to Halloween on Christmas 2. I'm Adam J. Now, I've already talked about the horror films that I hate the most, but if there's one thing I hate more than a bad horror film, it's a bad horror film remake, and boy, have we had some doozies over the years. So, stay tuned as I count down my picks for the top 13 worst horror remakes of all time. Now, the original film wasn't anything to write home about either, yet, strangely, was given a sequel years later. How, I'll never know. However, because of this, you'd think there would be no point in remaking this one, and after seeing the remake, I realized just how right I was. Even Lance Hendrickson, voicing the stranger on the other line, couldn't save this movie from being an absolute bore fest. The characters are boring, the situations are boring, most of the tension is beyond forced, and it just fails to justify its own existence. This was one remake that seriously should have just been left on the cutting room floor. The only reason it's so low is that because I didn't care much for the original, the remake didn't bother me too much. The original was boring and so was this. End of story, end of me caring. I know most would argue that this is technically supposed to be a prequel, but for fuck's sake, it has literally the same structure and story as John Carpenter's 1982 classic. It has the biggest identity crisis since Superman Returns. It has no idea if it wants to be a prequel or a remake. Now, just pay attention and see if any of this sounds familiar at all. A team is sent to investigate an alien life form discovered in a block of ice in Antarctica. The Thing eventually escapes from the ice and is able to assume the identity of anyone it kills. The main star of the movie tries to convince everyone that this thing could be anyone, but everyone seems reluctant to believe this person, until they witness the crap for themselves. They take blood from everyone to see if any of them turn out to be this thing, and one of them does, quickly going on a rampage. The team is reduced to the main character along with one other person as they manage to kill it. Lastly, the fate of the main character is left unknown. Yeah, I just described both of these films, note for fucking note. The fuck? Don't try to pass yourself off as a prequel and then do the exact same fucking thing your original masterful counterpart did. I'm not stupid, please write better. If I can take anything away from this remake, it's that Mary Elizabeth Winstead does a good job playing sort of a female version of McReady. Other than that though, this was a remake or prequel or whatever the hell it was trying to be that should have just left its original counterpart untouched. This movie especially pisses me off, and not just because it's bad, because it is, but because of how it butchers a horror classic. The Vincent Price masterpiece of the same name was suspenseful, dark, and at times very sinister, and aside from a nice homage with the killer in the remake being named Vincent, this remake fails on every level to capture the spirit and the heart of the original in favor of just making another random slasher flick. This is what we are reducing classic horror to. Pointless death and gore. How original. I will give the film this. Seeing Paris Hilton getting a pole through her head made me smile a little. Hell, I think even Nicole Richie snickered a bit at that one. But in reality, there is no reason to see this remake. Life is too short. The fact that it even got a green light just proves my theory that Hollywood is run by money-grubbing whores who are willing to sacrifice the name of art for money. How did the director of the original Rinju from Japan direct this recycled piece of cow shit? How? Now, I don't hate the original remake. It certainly had its moments, and David Chase was very creepy as Samara. And I gotta say, it takes a lot to make Lilo from Lilo and Stitch the least bit threatening. But sadly, they were too cheap to even get her back for this. We see some archive footage from her in the first movie, but that's about it. And this sequel completely ignores the original sequel's storyline, which was fantastic, dark, and at times very unexpected. Just to give you an example, in the original Rinju 2, the mother dies halfway through the damn movie. No, I'm not even kidding. Hit dead on by a fucking bus. see that coming. And when that happened, the father's assistant from the first movie took the boy in and got him through the new ordeal that the bitch on the tape was putting him through. Nobody saw any of that shit coming. But no, we're just gonna ignore that so we can focus on a story where Samara magically finds the mother and her child, even though they broke the connection in the last film, and actually wants to take over the boy and become him. And along the way, we get scary, scary shit like CGI deer attacking the car for no reason, Ryan Merriman having a pointless cameo that goes nowhere, and stock footage from the previous movie that makes me wish I was watching the previous movie. Yeah, fuck this. Not only is The Ring 2 a piss-poor remake and sequel, but it has absolutely nothing to offer. It's devoid of scares, it's devoid of logic, it's devoid of a purpose. Shame on you, director of Rinju. Shame on you. Now, the original Black Christmas has gained a cult following over the years, a following I am personally not a part of. It's fine as horror movies go, but I never considered it the masterpiece of horror that people have made it out to be. This remake, however, was incredibly detestable, to the point where it just turned my stomach watching it. Why? Because it's fucking disgusting. Incest, crossbreeding, people's flesh being carved with cookie cutters. This movie revels in just having as much gross out scenes and gross out plot points as fucking possible that it's kinda hard to watch at times. I say kinda because there is one thing that kept me from walking out, and at the risk of sounding immature, it was all the gorgeous women in the movie. Michelle Trachtenberg, Lacey Chabert, Crystal Lowe, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Katie Cassidy. Oh. What's the term I'm looking for here? Damn! And the sad thing is, these ladies don't do a bad job. They're just stuck in a god-awful movie that doesn't appreciate their talents. They do whatever is required of them to get through this crap, and really, after watching the film, one can hardly blame them. While not one of my personal favorites, The Haunting was a great exercise in old-school horror, relying on atmosphere, subtlety, and tricks of the mind to make a genuinely scary horror film. The remake, on the other hand, nope. Fuck that subtlety, fuck those tricks of the mind, and wave bye-bye to all that atmosphere. Let's just use CGI to scare people. I mean, CGI can be unintentionally scary at times. I think I had night terrors for a fucking week after seeing what they did to Splinter. Oh no, no, get off, get off, get off! Oh, thank God. I'm gonna fire my damn editor. But it just doesn't work here. The Babadook in House on Haunted Hill did something very similar to what the original Haunting did, relying very heavily on the power of suggestion. In The Haunting, you're meant to question whether or not the ghosts and all these creepy things that are happening are real, or if everything is just in Eleanor's head. But no, this movie goes out of its way to say, fuck you, it's all real. The remake of House on Haunted Hill did something similar, flat out telling us the ghosts were real, about halfway through. But honestly, I would go as far as to call that remake fine, because that remake still had good atmosphere, creepy images, and Jeffrey Rush doing the greatest Vincent Price impersonation I have ever seen. The Haunting remake couldn't even maintain any of that. Everything that made the Robert Weiss original good is replaced by CG animators blowing their wads all over our faces in the hopes that we'll be scared by it, and none of it works in any capacity. The Haunting remake is a spit in the face to a classic horror film and a prime example of what is wrong with horror films today. You know, it's very hard for Americans to get remakes of foreign horror films right, to the point where I can only think of one good one off the top of my head, but my God, this was the biggest offender. Cairo, which translates out to Pulse, was a film that was not only immensely frightening, but held some meaning for society. It was a film that used the concept of ghosts and machines to talk about how our dependency on modern technology is turning us into lifeless zombies, which is evident when each of the main characters slowly become nothing but shadows. This was an immensely good horror film with an original message. But no, we don't get that with this remake. Instead, what we get is just a ghost story about how ghosts just want life because they don't have it anymore. Well, duh! And those important messages are just thrown out the fucking window. Jesus Christ, hate the ring all you want, at least the remake was faithful. This was just a butchering of great source material. Wes Craven was originally supposed to do this remake, but unfortunately, it was taken from him, and we were given this crap instead. Thanks to whatever asshole made that decision. Okay, I already epic film failed this one a couple years back with Spidey, so I'll keep this one brief. I'm not a fan of the original Halloween 2 to begin with, but it was Citizen Kane compared to this. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 goes out of its way to butcher the Halloween franchise royally by taking the Black Christmas approach and just showing gross out shit pretending that that's what real horror is. There is a scene where Michael stabs the same woman 12 times for no reason other than to make the scene as gory as possible. There is no purpose in this movie, there is no atmosphere, and there is not an ounce of true horror. It is a pointless gore fest made for the sake of itself. If you ever have a chance to pass this one up, do so and never look back. I'm not gonna pretend that the original film was a horror masterpiece, but it did have heart, good acting, and for the most part, a nice, somewhat suspenseful story. It was a perfectly serviceable 80s horror film in the vein of Friday the 13th and Halloween, and while not perfect, was certainly better than most. The remake is such an uninspired piece of crap. I almost didn't put it on the list because, with the exception of the story taking place at a high school prom, it has nothing to do with the original movie. Instead of having a mysterious killer that we don't know the identity of, in this, we constantly see the guy and know who he is off the bat. Seriously, he's just some crazy fucking teacher who just wants to bang Brittany Snow. And, you know, one can hardly blame him, but still. Now, keep in mind, he was a teacher of the students at this prom. They all know he killed her parents to try and get to her. They all know he's supposed to be in prison. His disguise is a hat. A fucking hat! No mask, no attempt to disguise himself, just a hat. I don't know what's worse, this guy's idea of being incognito, or the fact that so many of the students see him, and yet somehow fucking miraculously never recognize him. Are you kids retarded? This was yet another PG-13 remake based on a rated R flick, so naturally, there's barely any blood in the movie. A ton of killing, but no blood. That is stupid. I don't need countless amounts of gore in a horror movie, but at least know what you are and embrace it. Some fucking sense of realism would be nice. There isn't really much I can say about this remake that others haven't already, so I'll just keep it simple. Okay, Remake 101, guys. When you remake a horror film, or any film in general, you should do it only because you think you can make it better, or because you can put a new original spin on it. That is not why most horror movies are remade, but that is the only excuse why they should be remade. The remake of Psycho doesn't do this because it is literally a shot-for-shot remake. Director Gus Van Sant opted to recreate every single scene from the original Psycho. The same camera angles, the same facial expressions, the same movements. It's the same movie with less talent, no heart, and no effort. I'm completely fine with a remake being like the original in spirit, but this was too fucking much. And Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates? Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates! Fucking really? Now, I like Tom Welling, I like Maggie Grace, and I fucking love Selma Blair. Oh, Selma, Selma, Selma. But why did they even bother with this remake? The Fog is a John Carpenter masterpiece that in no way needed one. You know, kinda like the other two John Carpenter masterpieces that didn't need one. This remake had the exact same problem The Haunting had. Instead of the horror, atmosphere, and suspense that occupied the original, we're given a movie with bad CGI, story points that make no sense, and direction so lifeless you could swear the film was directed by one of the ghosts inside the Fog. Rupert Wainwright had no idea what he was doing and had no business remaking a movie like this. It reduces the story to its bare bones, turns the characters into cardboard cutouts, ixnays any sense of atmosphere or dread, and wastes the talents of actors who aren't half bad. I only saw this remake for the actors involved, because I find them talented, but this lame remake refuses to let any of their talents shine through. The original film made it on my worst horror films list, so it only makes sense that the even worse remake would be on this list. Before seeing this film, I had never seen the god-awful original, so I had no idea what to expect. I took 2 showers after seeing this fucking movie. I could not believe how tasteless, disturbing, and just downright fucking despicable this movie was. For the hell of it, I ended up seeing the original, and after seeing that, it was pretty much the exact same thing. I had no problem naming this movie the worst film of 2010, and both of them 2 of the worst horror films ever made. What psychotic asshole wants to see a woman get raped and beaten and tortured for almost 45 fucking minutes? What psychotic asshole would film that? What psychotic asshole would consider that entertainment? The tagline of the movie is, "It's date night." How fucking tasteless can you be? The true tagline of this film should have been, "You will never be more ashamed to have a dick." Much like with the sequels to Hostel and Wolf Creek, I refuse to ever see the sequel that was made to this. I can never watch this remake again. Ever. It filled me with so much hate and disgust. Just thinking about it and mentioning it on this list makes me feel dirty. I am cringing just sitting here talking about it. It's not scary, it's not interesting, it's just a sick, perverted, disgusting mess of a film, and it needs a kick in the balls. So, after all that being said, what could possibly top this? I'm pretty sure most of you know what's coming, but let's take a look. Fuck this company. For all intents and purposes, I hate some of the films on this list more than some of these ones, but this studio simply will not stop until every horror movie that we cherished over the years is remade poorly. Texas Chainsaw, Amityville Horror, The Hitcher, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh my god, just die already. Not a single remake this company has released has been good. Not one. Texas Chainsaw had a creepy Leatherface and Arlie Ermey, but the acting was awful, the direction was piss poor, and the end result of the film was incredibly underwhelming. Amityville Horror. Oh yeah, let's take a horror film based on a story that has since been proven to be a hoax and remake the goddamn thing with Van Wilder in it. That'll make money. The Hitcher. You had Sean Bean. Sean motherfucking Bean playing the Hitcher. How did you not make that work? How did that turn out bad? Not to mention the infamous truck scene that you guys butchered for me. Thanks for that one, guys. Friday the 13th, the remake, where Jason is the killer instead of his mother, all the characters are bland and annoying, and Jason apparently takes hostages. No, Jason takes a female hostage in this movie. Keeps her in a cage for about 3 months. I don't know how he feeds her, if he goes to the store and buys her groceries or whatever, if he's feeding her rats. I don't fucking know how the fuck she's lived down there for 3 months, but yeah, why would Jason take a hostage? That's fucking stupid! And finally, Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh yeah, let's take Jackie Earle Haley, Rorschach himself, and cast him as Freddy. Sounds like perfect casting, but let's give him nothing original to do or say, and instead just give him the exact same lines Robert Englund used. Fuck you! Michael Bay has these movies remade by first-timers who are looking to break into the industry, which I guess in a way I can kind of respect him for. He's trying to do something nice for up-and-coming directors. That's very respectable, and both Marcus Nispel and Jonathan Lee Besman have both gone on to have careers because of this. But if you're going to give them a shot, do not have them remake classic horror films. Make original content for them to direct, you asshole. Have someone actually write a screenplay instead of butchering the already made screenplays we all know and love. When it comes to bad remakes, my friends, there is absolutely no contest. Platinum Dunes takes the gold.